Okay, I'm recording too. You ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Politipop Podcast, the podcast where we take your favorite pop culture media and discuss the social and political themes within. I am your co-host, Mike Booch, a.k.a. the Soy Boy Pseudo-Intellectual, and I am thrilled to be joined by my co-host. Please give it up for Ty.
Hey, what's up, man?
Just being a regular nihilist, but please, listeners, make sure that regardless of what podcast platform you're listening to us on, give us a rate and review. It helps us move up in the rankings when we start our super awesome Patreon. If you're not able to give any money, liking, rating, reviewing, sharing, those are all very, very important means to get the podcast out there. Visit our YouTube page of the same name, like and subscribe to get exclusive content. Visit us on Twitter at PolitiPopPod, Instagram at PolitiPopPodcast, and you can always email us at politipopcast@gmail.com, right? No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal at all.
It's not. And please remember that you can find our show notes and sources at politipoppodcast.wordpress.com.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's right. Let's move into some housekeeping before we review The Purge election year, which will be in a separate episode or video, depending on how you're listening or watching this podcast. All right, so Ty, I have something really hot I wanted to start off with. Are you ready for it?
I love hot things.
A lot of people aren't talking about this, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, the mobile game app for Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is free to play, has just included a new summoning mechanic in their game. It's known as Xyz Summoning, and it's what I used to destroy you last time we played. Are you familiar with it?
I know you destroyed me, but I wasn't familiar with how or why. I just knew you were better.
Yeah, the game definitely gets more complicated. But just when we're talking about like self-care and catharsis and stuff like that, if any of you out there enjoyed the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game when you were a kid, but you don't have money to buy cards or be competitive now, the mobile app is free to play. You can do a lot of awesome shit there, play people all around the world, build a really cool deck, play as your favorite characters with special skills and everything. And no, this episode is not brought to you by Konami or the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links or the trading card game.
This is from pure love.
Huge fucking nerd. Yeah, and I love it. They finally added the new the series that has that mechanic. Like every time they add a new mechanic, they add the series that introduced it. So like
That's cool.
It started off with Yu-Gi-Oh! And then it went Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, and then they went to 5Ds, and I think they did something. Oh, they did one of the movies actually. It's its own game type, and now Zexal is the most recent one, and I actually fell in love with that series a few years ago. I don't know why, but I think it's pretty good.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Just never dies, man. Like, my brother texted me 2 weeks ago that he found the original decks from, like, Kaiba and Yu-Gi and stuff at a store, and he was buying them. And then, like, 3 days ago, we were talking about it at work. Because we were talking about football so much because of fantasy football. Everyone was complaining, so we started talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! And then someone was like, you know what? Never mind, it's too nerdy. Why don't you go back to football? That kind of hurt a little bit, but
man, are you kidding me?
It's okay. I found out one of my closest coworkers, this guy who's also a manager with me. He plays, so I might have to duel him one day. When we're allowed to be around each other.
Yeah, yes, of course.
Outside of work.
No, just duel him at work.
Oh, nice. We could do that. Yeah, we'll process that return for you in just a moment. We're just it's my turn. Thanks.
What happened to your coworker? Oh, he went to the Shadow Realm. No big deal. He'll be back in a week. But yeah, anyway, that's something completely ridiculous. But also, maybe you've heard about this, but the president tested positive for COVID-19. Donald Trump tested positive for it. And there were some hot takes on this. Ty, what were yours?
Oh, my hot take was that I hoped he died from it. And I hoped that he killed a couple other horrible people around him with it too. But apparently that is a very, very controversial take, which I wasn't expecting because I wasn't telling this to Trump supporters because I don't talk to them. Fuck them. I was talking mainly to
enough.
like liberals and including a family member who thought I was being really, really cruel and over the top, and I was asked, when did you become so left? How could you think that? Do you just hate America? Do you think other countries are handling COVID better? Yes, they are. And they I don't know. It's just like a general like, wow, it was really intense. Which is funny to me because Trump doesn't actually care if anyone else lives or dies. He could care less, right? And he made a lot of horrible statements after he was diagnosed with COVID-19, and talking about how it's not a big deal, and basically telling people they should go out and not give a fuck. Which would probably kill them. And, I believe there's how many deaths in the U.S.? Like over 200,000, right, from COVID, supposedly? So
Over 200,000, yes.
yeah, so, and he didn't seem to care when that was happening, but I should feel bad that I don't really care if he lives or dies. Actually, I prefer him to die, but that's just my feeling. I mean, he's a terrible person. He's done terrible things, and I think we'd all be better off without him on this earth.
I mean, I've never liked the guy at all, before when he was in, I don't want to say good health, but whatever health is the baseline for him. So guess what? It doesn't fucking change now. Now, the thing is, like, I didn't want to wish it on him just because that might jinx it. I just kind of wanted, I didn't want to put my energy out there. I just kind of wanted to sit back and, see what happens. But it is interesting to see, like, for the past 4 years, you've had politicians, Congress people, people that you and I know all over, saying how terrible Trump is,
Yep.
how, he's this inhuman monster. He's separating people at the border. He
needs to be stopped.
Yeah, those concentration camp policies. Yeah, and they're putting out ads now that are saying, vote for your life. Vote like your life depends on it. Michelle Obama, your life is depending on it. Vote for it. And Joe Biden, come on, blah, blah, vote for me, buddy. And I don't know if vote for me, buddy is a really controversial topic. Vote for me, buddy. That should be his campaign slogan.
If you're not black, you're not voting for me, or whatever horrible thing he said.
Yeah, if you don't vote for him, you're not black.
Right, that's what it was, yep.
But, a couple things. One, the fact that democracy got us to a spot where, depending on how we vote, we could die is wild. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's necessarily what I believe, but that is the narrative. And I'm blown away by how normalized this narrative has become. It's like, hey, listen, if the wrong guy wins, we'll all fucking die. So one of these things isn't true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine, like, if that's really the case, then maybe we should be doing more than just voting, right? Like,
yeah,
it's like,
which is what we've kind of been advocating.
Would we have voted
anyway.
Hitler out? Like, would that have been the move? You know what I mean? Like this Hitler guy,
get Hitler at the polls,
he's killing a lot of people, but we're gonna run against him. We're gonna, we got to vote and get him out. Obviously, because people have compared Trump to Hitler. Like, I've heard people
many times, yes,
with their own mouths say this. And if they really believe that, then you need to do more than just vote. But yeah, they're saying you need to vote to save your life. Yet I'm a monster for saying if he dies from COVID, then great. Saves us all a problem, right? Saves us all the trouble. I didn't give him COVID. He got it his own dumb self because he doesn't want to, accept that it's dangerous, and he wears his mask sometimes, and spread it to pretty much like the entire Republican Party by this point.
Which, I mean, it's either him or Hope Hicks as a sleeper cell, and I'm for it if that is the case. But but let's go with the Hitler analogy, and it's like, would this conversation happen in Nazi Germany that it's like, oh, do you agree with the stuff Hitler has been doing? No, Hitler's a monster. He's terrible. But he got the flu. Oh, but that's terrible. Do not wish death on Hitler, on the Führer, because he has the flu. He's sick now. No, that's not
pray. Let's
how
pray for his health. Let's pray for his health.
Yeah, and also, like you said, 200,000 deaths and counting, and Trump has just, from the beginning, he caused people to die by saying it was a hoax. Yes, there was that interview he had where he acknowledged how bad it was, and it was Woodward, right? Bob Woodward, I think, did the interview. He sat on that until it was time for him to release a book, like so many other people are doing. Capitalism kills people, but it would have been poetic justice, and it still might be. Who knows? Because since he has been released.
Yes, he has been released, but there are videos of him gasping for breath before his speech, and just the general sense that he's not as well as he's letting on. Listen, again, maybe it's a horrible thing to say. I don't care if he dies, but he is spreading misinformation. Like he made a video after he was released, and he was like, I feel better than I have in 20 years. He was like, I may even be immune. I don't know. Like he's just he's just throwing stuff out there that can get people killed. He said, don't let COVID ruin your life. Don't let it rule you. Get out there. We're gonna get out there. It's not so bad. Like he literally said that. So. If it gets him, it gets him.
Yeah. I mean, and that was one of my conspiracy theories, was that he was going to use it as a means to tell people, listen, I recovered. I'm in the vulnerable group. I recovered. You can too. Even though I have unlimited access to taxpayer-funded healthcare, and you don't. I made it through. You can too. Go out and vote. That's the other thing too. Anyone who might have been holding off because of COVID, now maybe. I'm not, honestly, if it's his supporters, I feel like they were going to go out anyway. Like, we'll talk about it during our Purge election year episode, but I've said it to you off mic. People are less in love with America now and more in love with Trump. And they believe it's synonymous when the two are not synonymous.
I mean, like, they believe he is the American patriot. Like, there's literally paintings out there of him, like, clutching the flag, sitting at, in the White House with Jesus' hand on his shoulder. There was a great one where he's, like, walking away disgusted as Bernie Sanders, Nancy Pelosi, and some others are, like, stepping on the American flag, just, like, because they get along so well, Like, it's hilarious. I don't know. It's just... It's frustrating, it was just crazy to me that so many people were like wishing him well. That just the day ago we were talking about how much of an evil person he was and how he needed to be stopped. But if I said I don't really give a shit if he makes it. I hope I hope he learn. He gets his, whether he makes it or not. Hopefully he learns his lesson at the very least. And I'm a horrible person, so I don't know. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I told you that I've always had this saying, the whole like, oh, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. It's such a terrible fate. And guess what? If you would not wish a certain fate on your worst enemy, then they're not your worst enemy.
Yep.
So, I mean, Trump doesn't have to be everyone's worst enemy, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I have always had this weird fantasy where, like, for whatever reason, when you're at work and, like, you're just coming up with stupid shit in your head to get through the day, I did have this, this fantasy that, like, oh, like, hey, everyone, the president's coming to visit. Would I or would I not risk my life to punch him in the throat and punch him in the throat? And I've always gone back and forth with it because, like, no matter what, even when he's gone, the people that he's spoken to are still there. They're still here. They're still your neighbors, your coworkers, your family. And that's the real never forget. Once he's out of office, if he's ever out, who knows, that those people still sided with him. And it wasn't because they loved America. It was because they loved him. And it was because they loved the racism that he allowed them to express openly.
Yep. They could say whatever they wanted without consequences. Captain America actually called him out on I think on Twitter for talking about how easy it was to get over COVID, because like you said, he has access to the best doctors, the best hospitals, the best experimental drugs. Like my girlfriend knows someone whose father passed away from COVID, and one of the experimental drugs that Trump was on was something she had actually brought up to the hospital. They didn't have access to it. So could it have saved her father's life? Maybe it could have, but it wasn't available to the public, but it's available to Trump. And that just seems unfair, right? It just seems unfair that they get special privilege. When so many people can't even afford to go to the doctor, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's not even like in different circumstances, I would wish that he wouldn't get that health care, but I mean, it would have to be very different circumstances. It's just everybody else should have.
Yeah, if everybody had access to that healthcare, then fine. Nope, I have no issue with it, But we don't.
Yeah.
We don't.
Can I go back real quick to this conversation you had with a unnamed family member?
Yes.
And it was interesting. I saw a bit of the conversation, and the question that always gets floated out there, and normally not by liberals like it seems to have been. It's normally this question of, well, go to another country, you think you'll have it better there?
Yeah.
Like, that's it. That's, and I grew up with that because my father, who listened to the Lord of the Rings episodes, was an abusive father. He was neglectful. He was manipulative. He was emotionally abusive. And every time I complained as a kid, he would say, well, then go somewhere else. They'll put you in a foster home. They won't take as good care. Blah, blah, blah. Like, that's all it ever was. It's for some reason, you can never ask for more out of your country. And when you do, you're not a patriot, which is insane because the founding of this experiment, of the American experiment of the United States, was violence, was we don't want to be attached to Great Britain anymore. Let us go. Let us not pay taxes for your wars that you're going into. And guess what? It had to go to violence. And, those people are the ones who are historically thought of as patriots.
Yeah.
All those slave owners who fought on behalf of the the colonies, which then became the United States, they're thought of as the patriots for asking for more, for constantly wanting to improve. The founding fathers are thought of as heroes and patriots because they wanted to improve their country. So how is now...
Isn't that the goal, right? Don't you always want to be better as a person, as an entity, as a country, like whatever it is, the goal is always to get better, right? Like that's why people study. That's why people train. That's why, you practice things so you can get better.
Yeah, and I don't know, like in what other aspect is that okay? Is it okay to, your girlfriend or boyfriend, gets mad at you and you say, "Oh, well, fine, then why don't you go with somebody else?" Like that's I don't know. It is flawed logic, and I think it just comes from the boomer generation. For
sure.
Because regardless of where they stand politically, I noticed your unnamed family member also said, "Well, that's politics."
Yes.
That's what it is.
And this person is a liberal, right? They talk about how much they hate Trump all the time. Even voted for Bernie Sanders in the primaries last election, 2016. But like, this person's significantly older. They are a boomer, and I finally said to them, you want to just accept things as they are, right? Because you're at an age now where it just doesn't matter to you anymore. Like change isn't important because you're nearing the end of your lifetime. And I said, while not, I wouldn't say young, I'm only maybe a halfway to a third of my life, right? I still have a long time left.
Hopefully.
Right? Yeah, hopefully.
We'll see how many Trump parades keep going by your house, but that's going to
go out there and get killed. But and like my feeling is I want to know when I leave this earth that it's a little better, that maybe I helped make it a little better, or that I saw some sort of improvement, whether it's in the healthcare for the people of this country, or environmental change. Like I want to see positive change. That's important to me. I want to leave the people that are younger than me, that are going to be inheriting the earth from us, to have a shot, to have a better life. And I said to this person, don't you want to see me have a good life? Don't you want to see my brother, don't you want to see all of us have a healthy, place to live and a place that gets better? What if in
4 years your brother can't get married?
I said that. I said, well, do you want to see his rights as a gay man stripped away? Like, is that something that you're okay with? And their response was just like,
he is a man now, isn't he?
He is a man now.
Met this kid when he was fucking like 9 or 10.
Yeah,
Sorry.
He did. And this family member responded like, well, the world sucks. People suck. It's never going to change.
They're halfway there. I mean,
people do
believe that the world sucks, but I mean, change happens.
But change will only happen if we push it. Yes, we have to make it happen. If we just keep sitting here accepting that it's not going to change, it never will. And I think, right now, we're at a time where young people in America are sick of that shit, man. Like, we want to see change. We want to see things, rapidly get better for people. And I think the generation, that's younger than us, even they're even better. Like, I think us as millennials, like we went into it really wanting change, and we gave up because things got really hard for us, and it was really hard to make change. And I think we're starting to get motivated again. Bernie really helped that out. But the new generation, they're making shit happen, and they're not just sitting on their asses doing nothing. They're smart, and they want things to get better. So I say let's go for it, right? What do we have to lose? Things either stay the status quo or we make it better.
What do you have to lose except your chains?
Yep.
Which I did not make up. But yeah, there's this disillusionment of older generations, and I think it really does. It's Stockholm syndrome that comes from being raised in America. You're raised to believe that Americans, and namely white Americans, they were the best people. Yep. They always saved the rest of the world. They helped everybody out, and we're just finding out that it's not true. The history, which they always love to quote, just doesn't support that. Actual history doesn't support that.
No, it doesn't. We were discussing, the stimulus package, which I'm going to talk about a little more in detail in a minute, but and just the general way that America has handled not just COVID, but the economic side of it for Americans, and this person said to me, "Well, do you think other countries are doing it better? You really think other countries are better than America, that they're handling this better?" And I said, yes.
You don't think they're doing better?
Yeah, I know they are, right? Like we're talking about first world countries, obviously, and I'm not going to sit here and say America is the worst country in the world, that it's the worst place to live. I know that we have a lot of benefits that people around the world don't. But when you compare it to Canada, to England, to Italy, to Germany, we're not handling this well. Those countries have either suspended mortgage and rent. They're giving monthly payments to their citizens. They're making sure they don't go bankrupt. They don't die. They have health care. They have money to eat. They have a roof over their heads. And here we get one $1,200 check, and it's taken months and battling to maybe get another. It's just insane to me. And so to me, I'm like, yeah, there are other countries doing better. So why shouldn't we demand that we do better as well?
Yeah. And that's it. Don't be satisfied with being stagnant, with the
Sure.
whole, it's totally fine that, the 1%, or actually it might be more accurately 5%. But that the 1% has access to not only all the healthcare we don't have access to, but also all of that money, which, once again, it's very rare that somebody comes from nothing and becomes an incredibly successful billionaire or trillionaire. You inherit that, or you step on the backs of other people to get there. And
Yep.
if you do come from nothing and do get there, it's because it has been built on blood and bones of the lower class. That's how America does function. That's how capitalism functions. The moment you come into this world, you are only as good as the work that you can provide, whatever you can earn for the person above you. It's all a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. Actually, that's pretty accurate.
I have my moments. I want to read a moment from filmmaker Michael Moore real quick, because he had an interesting take when Trump first came down with COVID. It's a little long, but please bear with me. He says, "So now Trump has earned your trust? A note of COVID caution for Michael Moore. There is one absolute about Trump. He's a consistent, absolute, unrelenting, fearless, and professional liar. A serial liar. A factually proven liar. How many lies now has the Washington Post proven in these 4 years? 25,000? A lie at least twice during every waking hour? Think of all the bad people you've known in your life, even the worst ones. You couldn't say that about. Now, why on earth would we believe him today? Has he earned your trust now? No. Yet, we're decent enough to not want him to be sick, to wish him well, and maybe just this once give him the benefit of the doubt, because why would he lie about this? That's not the question. The question we, and yes, I mean you too, the media, the only question we really need to be asking is this. Why would Trump all of a sudden just start telling the truth? All of you, my friends, have been saying for 4 years, Trump's a liar, Trump's a liar. Why would you believe him now? He very well may have COVID-19. In fact, let's assume he does. Of course he has it. Does that make him not Trump? I'm certain Mussolini came down with the flu one time. Oh, there we go. Way to go, Michael Moore.
Yeah, more.
Pinochet and Franco would catch a cold every now and then. Margaret Thatcher must have had a migraine or two. None of them suddenly became nice or did good things or started telling the truth because they got sick. Jesse Helms with a runny nose was still Jesse Helms. But Trump has a history of lying about his health. His longtime New York doctor, Dr. Bornstein, admitted a few years ago that Trump dictated his perfect doctor's letter during the 2016 campaign. Then there was the White House doctor who said Trump could live 200 years. What about his lying about that emergency trip to Walter Reed to complete his physical? Trump also has a history of lying about his opponent's health, like when Hillary fell ill at the 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony, or what he's now been saying about Biden's health. So we must be skeptical. We must always remain skeptical when it comes to Trump. He may have it, but it's also possible he's lying. That's just a fact. But why would he lie about this? What would he have to gain? I mean, it looks bad that he's called it a hoax for 7 months and he totally mismanaged the government response, and now he has it? Doesn't it look terrible that he spent months downplaying wearing masks, dismissing social distancing, holding large rallies filled with the elderly, at-risk supporters, and even killing his own supporters like Herman Cain? And doesn't this go against his brand of always projecting and exaggerating his own strength, his health, his genetics, his virility? Yes, this is all true. He wouldn't want to admit he's come down with a hoax. But he's losing the election, and he knows it. It's not 2016. He was hated in 2016, but he's hated even more now. Millions of Americans are on fire and on the verge of serving him up a major league ass whooping and a record landslide defeat. So he needs badly to totally change the conversation about this campaign. And he just has. Democrats, liberals, the media, and others have always been wrong to simply treat him as a buffoon and a dummy and a jackass. I mean, yes, he is all of those things, but he's also canny. He's clever. He outfoxed Comey. He outfoxed Mueller. He outfoxed 20 Republicans in the GOP primary and then did the same to Democrats, winning the White House despite receiving fewer votes than his opponent. He's an evil genius, and I've raised the possibility of him lying about having COVID-19 to prepare us and counteract his game. He knows being sick tends to gain one's sympathy. He's not above weaponizing this. He's been lying about how soon a vaccine will be ready. What better way to hammer home that lie than by directing a saga in the final weeks before the election that culminates in the release of this vaccine? I'm going to skip a few things, but most dangerously, he may use this to push for delaying or postponing the election. The Constitution does not allow for this, but he doesn't give a fuck about the Constitution. He and his thug Attorney General Barr have no shame and will stop at nothing to stay in power. He may even use this as an excuse for losing. Then there's this. He may use his COVID as a pretext to drop out of the race and move Pence to the top of the ticket. Pence would temporarily become president, and then Pence could preemptively pardon Trump for all of his crimes. I'm going to leave it at that. There's a little bit more. I know that was kind of long-winded.
Damn.
But I thought Michael Moore brought up some interesting points. We don't have to discuss them. We'll move on to the stimulus thing. But I was wondering that too. Like, he's lied about everything. Why would he tell us that he has COVID? Why would he make himself look like that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a valid point. How can you take him at his word? Because it makes him look weak, right? Unless he just wants to make it look like he's so strong that he's going to come back healthier than ever, talk about how, which he's kind of already doing, that he beat COVID, that, it's no big deal, and, he's the healthiest president of all time, or whatever the fuck he's going to spin.
All right. So, Ty, what do you have for us with this stimulus situation here?
Oh, yeah. So, I believe it was on Tuesday, October 6th, Trump kills stimulus talks, tweets no deal until after I win election. In the minutes after his tweet, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged more than 400 points. So this is from NBCnews.com, but it's been widely...
Time to buy low, sell high. Buy low, sell high. Beat them at their own game. Sorry.
Yeah, it's NBC News, and it's been widely reported everywhere. But President Donald Trump effectively killed any chance of new coronavirus relief. Nancy Pelosi is asking for $2.4 trillion to bail out poorly run, high-crime Democrat states. Money that is in no way related to COVID-19, Trump said of the aid package passed by House Democrats last week, which is actually for $2.2 trillion. We made a very generous offer of $1.6 trillion, and as usual, she's not negotiating in good faith. I am rejecting their request and looking to the future of our country. I've instructed my representatives to stop negotiating until after the election, when immediately after I win, we will pass a major stimulus bill that focuses on hardworking Americans and small business, he continued. I have asked Mitch McConnell not to delay, but to instead focus full-time on approving my outstanding nominee to the United States Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett. Trump then praised the state of the economy, pointing to the stock market, unemployment, and recent job gains. In the minutes after his tweet, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged by more than 400 points. So Trump is basically trying to hold people's livelihood ransom until he wins the election. That's what I got out of that, right? I was really shocked by. I thought he was going to try to approve something to make him look good. Instead, he was like, "No, fuck you, vote for me, and then you'll get money." That's what he's doing.
Yeah, that's such a desperate move. You would think that he would approve something and then be like, "Guys, I'm your fucking president. I'll take care of you. Vote for me."
I would have bet anything that's what he's going to do, and I think everyone's pretty shocked right now.
And also, I think that you could use that to win over the moderates that Biden is trying to steal.
Yep.
All the moderates and conservatives that Biden's trying to steal, because Trump keeps saying that the Democrat cities don't deserve to be bailed out. Now Biden's campaign has been able to, I'm not saying Biden specifically, but Biden's campaign has been able to, he's not coming up with fucking shit. He's not in the fucking writer's room with all these people being like, "Oh, it's a great idea."
The last thing he wrote was the crime bill.
And even then, he had help with it.
Of course.
But yeah, Hillary Clinton calling people super predators. But yeah, so he keeps running on this idea of like, listen, we're not Democrat states and Republican states. We're Americans, and we're all together, and I will govern everybody, and I'm going to be a president to every American, not just the ones who agree with me. And and it's surprising to me that Trump wouldn't do that, to be like, hey, listen, like, get the moderates back and say, listen, I'm helping you guys. I'm saving you. I approve this thing. I'm giving you all this money and stuff. And, if that doesn't earn me another 4 years, I don't know what does. Regardless of whether you're Democrat, Republican, I think that's the way to go for it. And honestly, who's to say it won't happen late October? Anything's possible, I feel. He has executive orders, behind him, like.
But you got to look at it like there are millions of people without jobs right now who cannot pay their rent or their mortgage. They can't even buy food, and they're hoping for this one little stimulus check and the payroll protection stuff, and they can't even get that. Like it just blows my mind. Like, to me, like, he is a monster. Like, how could you do this? But funny enough, this afternoon, which is not even 24 hours later, Wednesday the 7th, Trump seemed to reverse his stance a bit.
Wait, what?
So I have an article here from the Wall Street Journal. It says, stocks rise as Trump appears to soften stance on stimulus. U.S. stocks climb Wednesday after President Trump appeared to soften his stance on a further stimulus package for American households, airlines, and small business. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 556 points, or 2%. A whole bunch of them did. And basically what happened was President Trump has been tweeting out, nonstop. And people weren't really sure how to take it. But just hours later, the president seemed set to shift course. He said in a series of overnight tweets that he was ready to sign right now if he was sent a standalone bill for sending $1,200 checks to Americans. He also urged lawmakers to approve a $25 billion package to support airlines, payrolls, and $135 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program, aimed at helping small businesses. And walking back from the earlier tweet was pretty notable, said James McCormick, a strategist at NatWest Markets, and has people thinking he'll do some targeted stimulus. So I know a lot of the airlines came out and were very, very open about the fact that they are going to be furloughing further employees and, just in general, panic because nobody's flying and they were really, really counting on this. And I think, with the stock market dropping drastically and probably a lot of people telling Trump, you're going to lose votes by doing this, he all of a sudden decided maybe he needs to change his story a bit. So what he's now claiming is he will approve very specific parts of the package that was passed. And that is the $1,200 checks to Americans, the airline protection, and he says like those have to be given to him separately. And like, listen, I kind of said from the start, why does it have to be this giant package that they're gonna have to negotiate for months on? I wish they would have just done the $1,200 checks on their own. Like, let's focus on that, get them into people's hands, and then worry about the rest after. My guess is that Democrats are afraid that once that's passed, they won't be able to get anywhere with the rest of it. So that was kind of how they were pushing Republicans to negotiate. But we'll see. Now Trump's claiming that he'll do that. And he actually tagged, like, on Twitter, Nancy Pelosi and some other people in Congress.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah, which was pretty hilarious. So, he's changing his tune really, really, really quickly.
I mean, what's interesting, I mean, the reason why they want to negotiate on a huge package is because, as far as I understand, and if any of you listening out there are fucking lawyers and shit or whatever, or constitutional lawyers, feel free to let me know.
Yeah, please.
But like usually I know that bills and acts and stuff usually have like fine print.
Of course,
so it'll be like,
course.
All right, Trump signs this thing and approves this much money to Americans, but then it also like provides funding to the NRA,
yes,
or provides funding to the Boogaloo Boys. like who knows, honestly. But yeah,
the Proud Boys standing by.
There you go, Proud Boys standing by. Who I'll tell you about somebody who is not a Proud Boy. I don't have to do the segues. I could just be like next story. But I always
they're
feel
funny.
Like
I enjoy them.
Yeah. Let me tell you about Wolf City officer Sean Lucas. He responded to a call about a possible fight after 8 p.m. Saturday, just north of the city center, the Texas Department of Public Safety said. Wolf City is about 70 miles northeast of Dallas. Officer Lucas made contact with a man later identified as 31-year-old Jonathan Price, who was reportedly involved in the disturbance. Officer Lucas attempted to detain Price, who resisted in a non-threatening posture and began walking away, a DPS statement said. So I guess he was just like, fuck this, I'm out. I don't know if there's any video yet. This is the first I've been trying to stay away from social media as much as possible, but to an extent that it's still healthy for the podcast at least.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Price it went under the radar until I saw a random hashtag and I was like, who is this? Lucas used his taser and then fired his weapon, hitting Price. Was he fucking dual wielding? Jesus Christ. And then fired his weapon, hitting Price, the statement said. Price died at a hospital, according to the statement. The preliminary investigation indicates that the actions of Officer Lucas were not objectively reasonable. Price was intervening in a domestic dispute and was never violent before Lucas shot him, said S. Lee Merritt, the attorney for Price's family. The situation was resolved before law enforcement arrived. Resolved? That's a weird way. And this is from fucking CNN. They always say like, oh, CNN's the socialist liberal agenda, blah, blah, blah. The situation was resolved. We murdered a fucking man in cold blood.
They have to word everything so specifically, It's like,
yeah.
It's funny because the right will always talk about being politically correct, but when you really think about it, like that's
the most politically correct people are like the left-wing media, and I use that term left very loosely, and I'll say the liberal media.
Yes.
Now I sound like fucking Alex. Let me tell you a second about why.
Yeah, the liberal media.
About why the liberal media is too politically correct, okay? And it's because all the right wing, they'll outright say that they hate black people and stuff, but the liberal media, they'll still hate minorities and marginalized groups, but they'll make it okay for everybody to look at and play both sides, therefore making them more dangerous. It's the Democrats, and the liberal media and CNN. They're all in it together to say outwardly we think racism is bad, but they really fucking don't. They just want to continue pushing, which is why I think, certain things are really starting to push Biden toward the White House. This whole, it's very desperate, this marketing of vote for your fucking life, they really, really want Biden in there. And you got to wonder why. It's because it's not because he's made promises to change things. That's it. I know you got to wonder why. It's not because he's made promises to change things. That's it. Let me finish this off. After Mr. Price refused repeated instructions and physically resisted, Officer Lucas deployed his taser and continued to give Mr. Price instructions. Okay, so it wasn't at the same time, I guess. Mr. Price resisted the effects of the taser, and attempted to take it away from Officer Lucas. Rogers said in a statement Tuesday night. Officer Lucas and attorney Robert Rogers, he's the one who's representing Lucas, the cop who shot Jonathan Price.
Okay.
Mr. Price resisted the effects of the taser and attempted to take it away from Officer Lucas, Rogers said in a statement Tuesday night. Officer Lucas only discharged his weapon in accordance with Texas law when he was confronted with an aggressive assailant who was attempting to take his taser. A preliminary autopsy report from the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office provided few details aside from the cause of death, gunshot wounds. A full report is this The Onion I'm reading? A full report is expected in 6 to 8 weeks. Texas Rangers booked Lucas into the Hunt County Jail on Monday. It's not clear where Lucas is being held or if he's bonded out. He is not listed on Hunt County's online jail roster. So that's interesting. The cop has actually been arrested.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting, actually.
I mean, it's a welcome change of pace. He'll probably get out, but we'll see. We'll keep an eye on this. Of course, there's been, protests. Friends and family are mourning his death. And, the family attorney is calling for videos and police reports. So it's not just, one side versus, one side's hearsay, he says, she says versus the others. But yeah, so guys, the reason I'm reading this out there and just kind of, not giving it like not spending the entire episode on this is because just to let you know that this is still happening.
Yep.
So, next time you hear someone say, oh my God, enough with it. Why are we always talking about race? Blah, blah, blah. Because it's still fucking happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's happening. It's probably happening far more than is being reported, far more than we're talking about. It's happening probably every day. So, never for a minute think that things have gotten better or we've changed. Martin Luther King didn't end racism, right? It's still here, and it's still active very much in everything and everywhere around this country and around the world.
And it's been happening, and it's going to continue to happen. And I'll close off by quoting the late and great Frederick Douglass. I'm going to paraphrase him actually. Where he said, power isn't given unless it has a reason to. So we're literally just looking for justice. And at the very least, in a perfect world, for cops to be better and just be held to a higher standard and not murder civilians with impunity. I mean, hopefully video footage comes out soon. Hopefully we can see how this actually went down. And, and if indeed this cop is in the wrong, which statistically he is, if history shows anything, hopefully justice will be served. He's already in jail, so that's a start. But, honestly, we need to see indictments. We need to see trials. We need everything. And, folks, just make sure that you're staying vigilant and know that, that this stuff is still happening, regardless of how comfortable you may be getting or how tired or emotionally exhausted you may be getting. And we're going to talk a little bit about that more in the next episode, which is going to be our review of The Purge election year and a little bit more of the Purge franchise, which I'm excited to give you. And Ty, you had one last story for us. Please enlighten me as to the cringe that you're about to divulge on this world.
Well, we spoke a lot about Trump and I don't think the day would be complete without also talking about Biden, the hero who will save us from Trump. There is an article from the New York Post that's titled, Biden makes eyebrow-raising comments to young girls at campaign stop in Miami. So nothing new there,
surprised,
right?
Please, yeah.
Joe Biden's wife had to pull the Democratic presidential nominee away from reporters on the campaign trail to maintain social distancing. That didn't prevent one of his signature eyebrow-raising comments at an event later in the afternoon. While speaking to reporters Monday outside the Biden campaign jet, the former vice president was filmed standing closer than the CDC recommended 6 feet apart from the press. Biden was asked a question by a reporter when his better half came up behind him and pulled him back a couple of steps. I'm sorry, Biden said as he was shuffled backwards, regaining his thoughts.
It's a bad Joe Biden. No. I don't know why she calls him Joseph.
He's
full
just
name.
Lost everywhere he goes, and people have to guide him. After
Mr. Magoo is running for president.
Yes. Really horrible, Mr. Magoo. After their flight, the Bidens arrived in Miami, Florida, where they visited Little Haiti Cultural Center. While there, he watched a performance by a group of school-aged children before delivering remarks about how Hispanics would be supported under a Biden administration. During his remarks, he had an awkward moment when he told a group of girls that he planned to come back and see them dance again once they were 4 years older. The good news is, for me, I'm here. The bad news for you is, I'm coming back, he said. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Did he actually say that? Or did you just...
This is an actual quote by him.
The good news... Sorry, read it again. I just need to take this in. I just need this.
The good news is, for me, I'm here. The bad news for you is, I'm coming back, he said. I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I want to see these beautiful young ladies. I want to see them dancing when they're 4 years older, too, he quipped to the crowd.
Oh, my God. That's not too different from what Beatrix Kiddo said in the first Kill Bill.
Oh,
to that child about fighting her to the death when she was an adult.
Oh,
I'll be back.
It's like Mr. a bad SNL skit. Like, what the fuck?
It really is. You can't make it up. Like, we're gonna have to start having SNL sketches that are just people living regular fucking lives.
Yes, I know. They get away from this. 'Cause I'm like, This guy cannot help himself, man. He just needs to not talk ever again until the election's over. Because he just, oh man, wow.
And I do want to follow that up with, obviously, you and I are not voting for Biden.
No.
Because that was something I heard a lot in 2016 where they're like, oh, Trump just needs to shut up. Like, oh, you don't agree with what he's saying, but you're totally going to fucking vote for him. No, Biden does need to shut up, stop being Joe Biden. You know what? Before we close off, could he win your vote, and what would it take?
At this point, I am 99.9% sure that he could not. Because every chance he had, he has failed to. If he had actually worked with Bernie Sanders to move his campaign and his policies to the left a bit, if he was going to work on some sort of Medicare for all, if he was going to help maybe either eliminate or reduce student loan debt, if he was going to participate in the Green New Deal and making that a part of the country's policies, there may have been a chance. I may have considered it if I really believed that he was going to do any of those things to help us. But he literally said he wouldn't. So at this point, there's really not anything he could do to win my vote. And if he all of a sudden said he was gonna, like 30 days before the election, I wouldn't believe him.
That's exactly what I was going to say, that like if he'd have said this stuff months ago, might have been a different story. But literally, he's just been on the campaign trail being like, yo, I'm going to fuck these Latina bitches. I beat Bernie Sanders in the fucking face. I'm not a socialist. Socialist. Yeah, fuck socialism. I'm going to refund police. We're going to give... I'm not going to defund the police. I'm going to refund them.
They're going to have more money than they know what to do with. They're going to have so many guns.
That's right, man. They're gonna have everything. Fucking Halo, all those weapons and more.
Yeah, he's gonna give them the most advanced armor you can ever see. Water bottles will explode when they get near them.
Yeah, and they'll have like the Spanker missile launcher, the rocket launcher, and it'll be like 17 protesters injured today, and he's gonna be like, listen, he rocket launch shot them in the leg. Didn't he? So, there are no more legs left.
Just shoot him in the leg. He's keeping people alive, man.
They're all going to be Jacob Blakes. Like, Jacob Blake is still alive, and unfortunately, that's the best case scenario right now for black people being brutalized by the police. Best case scenario is that you get paralyzed from the waist down. It's wild. And so yeah. I mean, the only way Joe Biden, you remember in Team America where at the end Gary has to go back to the leader of the group after the all is lost moment in the story, and he has to suck his cock to prove that he's loyal to the cause.
Yes.
Even after Joe Biden finishes doing that to me, I would still be like, Hawkins 2020. Green Party. It doesn't matter because, like you said, if he had been saying this months ago, maybe, thin maybe. But the more I've been learning about our quote-unquote democracy in the history of our country, no, everything happens the way that it's meant to, and we're made to believe that we have a choice. You can't play by their game and expect to win.
No, you can't.
They make the rules, so you have to change the game. That's it. You can only find outtakes if you want to laugh on our YouTube channel. You can find us on Twitter at PolitiPopPod, Instagram at PolitiPopPodcast, email us at politipopcast@gmail.com, and check out our show notes and sources at politipoppodcast.wordpress.com. And once again, if you're not able to give any money when the option's there, always just please rate and review us as often as you can. It helps the algorithm, helps put us out there in front of new listeners' faces whenever they open up whatever podcast app they have. For the Politipop Podcast, I've been Mike Booch.
I've been Ty.
Remember, no matter what media you're taking in, never stop thinking, never stop learning, and please, read between the lines.
And scene.
Thank you.